Hi, this is Judith. We're in my studio at home again. It's messy. There's interesting things here, but I dug out some binders that I have with contact sheets and negatives. This is how I always keep mine, where the contact sheet is in front, the negatives are behind. So if I wanted to print this right here, I just look at it and go, oh, there's the negative right there. So I wanted to talk to you about what we learned from our contact sheets. And I'm going to have you do an assignment. Well, I'll have my photo students do the assignment. If you're not one of my photo students and you're watching this, lucky you. So what we learned from contact sheets is we learn to assess our exposures, and we learn, we get to see what the best compositions are. So just real quick, when I'm looking at a contact sheet, I'm looking at things like this one is really dark here, this one is really light here. That's actually why I chose this contact sheet. And if you're wondering why in the world those things look so big, that's because this was shot with a medium format camera. If you shoot with 35 millimeter, you're probably used to things that look a lot more like this. But I'm using a medium format contact sheet just because it's a little easier to look at. And this one conveniently had overexposed and underexposed on it, which I want to talk about. So, first of all, I want you to see that where this is really dark right here, this is the contact sheet. This is a positive. We look at the negative. This is on a light table, and the color is a little weird video, but that's okay. It's a really light, thin, transparent negative here, where this looks really light on the contact sheet. This negative is really dark. And so I want to remind you that light makes things dark. So when light came through the camera and hit the film here, the most light, like the sky, activated or exposed the most amount of silver salt crystals in that emulsion and broke them apart. And so the more that were exposed, the more silver got developed in that part of the film. So these are the negatives. Light makes things dark, okay? And then we're looking at the contact sheet. So what we see is when this is really dark here, this didn't get enough light. It's not dark enough. So this is an underexposed negative. This is an underexposed image on the contact sheet. If I were going to be printing this in the darkroom, which honestly I would never try to do because it would be really painful, but it would need a super high contrast filter. So really thin negatives need, that are really dark, they need to be printed with really high contrast filters in the darkroom. Usually probably like a 4 or a 5, and it still would be really hard to get nice tonal values out of it. Something like this is what we would call a really dense negative. This one's really thin, underexposed. This one's really dense, overexposed. You can see there really is detail there, so it wouldn't be as hard to print as this one. But what this would need is probably a really low contrast filter in printing in the darkroom. So this is what I'm looking at when I'm looking at my contact sheet. I'm identifying my underexposed negatives. I'm identifying my overexposed negatives. And then I'm also looking to see which compositions I like the best. So when I look, this composition kind of catches my eye. The light in that composition kind of catches my eye. And so those are the kinds of things, these kind of relationships catch my eye. Okay, so those are the 3 things that we're looking for on a contact sheet, for overexposed negatives, underexposed negatives, and good compositions. I'm sure there will be more videos. Bye.